our introduction to Google Cloud. In this part of the video, we are going to pick up our discussion of Google Cloud with a walkthrough of how to use the platform to deploy containers using the Kubernetes Engine and online console. So let us begin.
All right, so now let's actually build our first container. So the first thing you want to do is go up here where you have Active Cloud, Google Cloud Shell. This looks nice, looks familiar. It's like a terminal. Click Cloud Shell. Hey, we actually get a little shell down here. Takes it about 30 seconds to a minute to set up. Here is our account ID. So this is really cool. So if you could come up here, there's our ID. This is just to remind you that everything you do needs to have your project ID. So the first thing I recommend you doing is actually create a label, or essentially an export for it. So you can export project ID, use the command GCloud config get-value space project -q. And what that's going to do is it's going to take this hello world -210500 and assign it to project ID. So then all I have to do is call $squiggly and then project ID as a tag, and it will give me the hello world 210500. So now I can inject this in anywhere I want to use project ID. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create some storage locations. So say I want to create one for my project. So we'll do util. So Google Shell util, and we're going to create a MBGS, and we're going to use our tag here. So what we've just done is now we're going to create a storage location called hello world 210500. Now we could have done the same thing if we'd gone over to the navigation window and scrolled down to storage and create bucket. So essentially from the command line, we've created a bucket. You could also just click create bucket. You could say multi-regional, regional, nearline. Code line, location. So storage cost, 0.026 gigabytes per month. Retrieval cost is free, class A, half a cent per 1,000 ops, class B, 0.04 per 1,000 ops, and you can set up additionals, or you could just, for now, we'll just create temp. Oh, can't use temp because temp's already in use. Some of the folder names that essentially live in Linux, you can't reuse them as your buckets, so you kind of have to make them unique to your specific project. So we'll just call this one demo storage. World bucket. Oh, no hyphens or dots. Bucket. All lowercase. All right. Just throw that out there. So now, if I go back to my storage, same thing. So if you notice, it looks identical to what we did down here in the command line. Increase that a little bit so you can actually see it. All right, so now we have it. Let's set our default public read to be our new project folder, our new project bucket. Okay, there we go. Setting default object ACL on our new folder. So now let's go get our hands on the Google's Kubernetes Hello World app. So you're going to type git space clone space https://github.com/G Google C Cloud P Platform /Kubernetes-Engine -samples. I'll also stick this on the post, but just for those of you trying to follow along, that's what it says. All right, it's downloaded. So now I can use my Linux command ls. There's our package, Kubernetes Engine samples. So we'll cd into it. So as you can see in here, let me list it out. We have a couple different samples. So we have a guest book, we have the Hello app, we have the Hello app TLS, Hello nodes, service catalogs, WordPress persistent disks. So there's a couple different samples you can do in here. The one we're going to focus on is Hello app. So we'll go to Hello app. And now that we're in here, we need to actually build our Hello app. So let's look at it real quick. Inside here, we have our Docker file. So if we do vim docker, it says, hey, from Golang, so we need to include Go. Our Go language is 1.8 Alpine. We're going to add Go source Hello app, and we're going to install Hello app. And it's going to use the latest from Alpine, and we're going to set it for port 8080, and the command line is going to be .hello app. All right, the other thing is our main Go is, this is a Go project, a little Go app. So main, so inside here, so we have package main, we're importing format log, HTTP and OS. In our little main function here, we're setting the port to 8080. We're going to get the port from the environment. We're going to serve the network. We're going to use the handler index. We're going to use the root, so slash, will return hello. And we're going to print server listing on port, hopefully 8080. And then the function hello down here actually prints out server request with the path. We're going to spit out hello world, version 1, and our host name. All right, so next, we're going to build it. So we're going to do docker build -t space gcr.io, which is US Google Cloud Resource IO, / our project ID / hello app : your version, and then dot. Now, this is required for so the gcr.io / project ID is a required tag for when you want to push your images to your Google Cloud, to the Google Cloud Docker image storage into your container registry. If you do not include this right here, the gcr.io with the project ID, it won't know where to stick your Docker image. So even though locally your Docker image may just be hello-app, you need to retag it to the gcr.io with the project name and hello app. And I'll show you that a little later in the next example. So this builds our Docker image. It'll take it a second to build. It's compiling it. It's doing all its Docker behind the scenes pieces. There it goes, downloading. So for those of you who may not have walked through the Docker lesson with us yet, so the first thing it does is it pulls down all the dependencies, all the libraries it needs to build the Docker container. It then adds our app, Hello App. It removes any intermediate containers that it doesn't need. Then it pulls in any additional containers it needs, pull complete, so it pulled the library Alpine. So it downloads the new image from Alpine. It then copies everything together, builds the container, and now we have the command hello app, which we can run. So now, if I do Docker images, we will see we now have a gcr.io/hello world-210500/hello app tagged as version 1. So we now have our Docker image. But this is all command line. So what did that actually do? So if we go look at our Google Cloud Platform up here and go look at our container registry, nothing's there yet. So that's interesting. So we built our Docker image. However, everything you do down here in this little command line, it's a standalone Linux instance. Unless you actually tell the command to push or to actually do something to the Google Cloud service, it's all local in this environment. Nothing has actually impacted your Google Cloud Platform yet. So that's what I'm saying. This is really cool. You can keep kicking out new sessions with your project, and it's just Linux. So until you actually say, hey, put it on the cloud platform, make it visible, you can do all you want down here. No one sees it. So you can keep your development work private from production or from staging. So now, let's take this image and actually put it out onto our Google Cloud. So to do that, we do GCloud. So we're using the Google Cloud command line SDK, Docker. So we're essentially the Docker command, but the Google Cloud. So it's saying, hey, take this Docker. So this Google Cloud Docker is referring to this repository, -- push, and then you give it the repository name, : the version number. Hit enter. This will take it 30 seconds to a minute. It's preparing. It's a lot faster from this command line than if you do it locally, because bear in mind, you're doing all this in the cloud, so all their services are already utilized to run very quickly, where your home network may be a little bit slower, so it may take a little bit longer to push things up. All right, so let's minimize this, refresh. Hey, there's our instance. So if we click on this guy, there's our Docker image. Tells you what it is, Docker manifest schema 2, the application distributed here, virtual size, so it's only 4.1 megabytes. Upload time, when it was uploaded, the digest, the tag. So right now we only have version 1. Repository is hello app. That's how we'll refer to this when we actually push it to our containers. And hello world 2 is our project. All right, so now we have an image, but we currently don't have anywhere to put them. We have no clusters. We have no services. So now we need to actually spin up a cluster. So you can do it from here, from the command, from the GUI, or you can script it and do it all from the command line. I'm going to kind of show you both ways because it's good to do it from the command line, script it out. So if you have to do multiple deploys, you can do it from a script file, change the locations where you're pushing your files up to, and then just rerun the script. If you have to do it manually through the GUI all the time, that's a lot of extra clips, takes a lot longer, and you have the higher potential for a typo or making a mistake. So to create a container, again, GCloud, you're using the Google SDK, Cloud SDK. Container, so hey, we want to take create a container. With clusters, we're going to call it Hello Cluster, just so we can kind of tie it to our Hello app that we're about to push. We're going to give it 3 nodes, and we're going to set its zone location to US Central A, which is Central Time. Okay, he takes a minute to get started. The only thing I don't like about the clusters GUI here is there's no refresh. But if you actually click clusters after you start that, you'll see it refresh here. Once you actually have clusters, you then have the option to refresh, deploy, create clusters, delete. I don't know why they don't just give you the refresh to begin with, but You have to actually create something before it gets started. All right, that's going to take a second there. So other things here, we don't have any workloads yet, still no services. So the only thing we've actually triggered right now is our cluster. And this guy does take about 30 seconds or so to create, so we'll just give it a second here. Be careful. When you're using the command window here, don't hit the refresh button of the browser. You wipe this out. You then have to go reconnect and go pick up where you left off. The other cool thing is what you can do is you can actually send some keyboard commands. You can set your terminal preferences. It actually is neat because Google actually has it set up to the zoom. So control plus and minus zooms in and minus without affecting the whole browser. So if you're actually physically clicked in the command window, you're only interacting with the command window. But if you click up here in the browser, you notice the little icon is not solid anymore. So if I hit control plus and minus, it now affects the whole browser. Some other neat little features, you can launch your code editor. It's still beta. It's a little buggy, so be careful with that. Oh, good, he's done. We'll come back to him in a second. You can upload a file, download a file. You can also detach this window and it will open up in a separate tab, so you'll have a full window for your console. Okay, so the cluster is created, and it says here, okay, your name was created, hello cluster, location US Central, master version, master IP address, machine type, node, number of nodes. So the other thing we can now do is we can actually use Google Cloud or GCloud Compute instances list. And this will give us all the instances that are running. So we have our cluster. We said we wanted 3 clusters, so that's 3 cores. So if we click the hello cluster, minimize this guy, we actually have 3 nodes. So that command I just ran down in the command line, Google GCloud Compute Instance List, gives you your list of your nodes. So you can get access to all this information from the command line as well as within the GUI interface. All right, so next, we want to set up our containers. So the other thing is, so we have our cluster, still no workload, and still no service. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do GCloud Container for our clusters. So set up containers for our clusters. We're going to get credentials for hello cluster, zone. So we're essentially getting the credentials we need for our container. So we now have our cluster endpoint and auth data has now been created, and the Kubernetes config has now been set up for our hello cluster. So now we can go ahead and actually deploy images to our cluster. So next, we want to again review our images. So we have our Docker images. We have our grc.io hello world. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the Kubernetes command line SDK, kube ectl, execute line, run hello-web. So we're going to name our node or our Docker image that gets deployed hello world, and we're going to point it to the image that we uploaded. So the grc.io, my first gcp.con. Actually, nope, that's not right. That should actually be so it's going to be image equals GCR for Google Cloud, I think resource or remote.io, and then we're going to use our project tag, so $project ID. Now our hello app, we're going to give it the version, and we're going to set its port to be 8080. It'll take a second to build. Now this is very similar to what we did locally in our discussions of both the Docker images lesson and the Kubernetes lesson. So right now we have essentially set up our Hello Web. So we now have our Hello Web instance is now on the cluster. We've deployed it as one pod, but we can't access this guy. This guy is still behind the firewall. He has not been opened up to the web, so we still have to expose this guy. Before we do that, though, let's look at some of the command line options to get the information for our pods. So Kubernetes get pods says, hey, we have one Hello Web running and it's ready. It's running on the cluster. So if I click Hello Web here, it gives you the CPU, memory. We have no information yet because we just dropped it out there. So the labels is run Hello Web. And we have one node here, one pod, so one pod. So now I want to expose this guy. So I can do one of two things. I can go to services and I can expose something here. I can set it up. Or from the command line, I can use the Kubernetes executable expose deployment hello web -- type equals load balancer. We're going to essentially set it to be port 80, and we're going to target the 8080. So this guy will redirect us to the internal 8080 port. Kick that off. Now if I refresh, it's creating the service endpoints. So it'll take a minute. And then from the command line, you type Kubernetes get service. Gets the same information we see here with one difference. Instead of you seeing this little wait here, you get pending. The cluster IP is not open, so he's still going to be private. We're just waiting for this guy to refresh. There he is. So there's our IP address. We can just copy that and paste it into our little tab up here. But this is where I do like the web interface for this feature. So now all I have to do is refresh my service. If I want to go check out my endpoints, now all I have to do is click the endpoint. It opens it up. The first time you hit the endpoint after it's deployed will take a few seconds to start up because it has to cache it and then run it. So here we go. We got Hello World version 1 and our host name. All right, simple enough. We now have our first Kubernetes image deployed. Now, what happens if we're getting bombarded and we're starting to get denial of services because we don't have enough services running to support the incoming traffic? Well, that's easy. We can just run the Kubernetes scale deployment, Hello World, and we can now kick it up to 3. So we can now spin up 3 nodes. So now if I refresh the service here, hey, we now have 3 pods running. So if I go to workloads, we have 3 pods, go to Hello Web, scroll down, we now have 3 pods running. And we can kick that up to 6. Refresh. Now we have 6. So if we were just getting bombarded, we could keep spinning up till the load was handled. And then once the load goes back down, we can then spin down our extra nodes. And then if we want to get this information from the command line, type Kubernetes get deployment hello world or hello web. Name 6, we have 6 going. So this is giving us this information here. And if we want the pod information, we just change that to Kubernetes or kube XQL get pods. And then there's our pod information. So that's it in a nutshell. That's the Hello World piece. But, oh, wait, what happens if I want to change or make a change to an existing deployment? Well, that's easy. All you have to do is go out to our Hello app here. And let's make a change to our main Go. So and go. And let's make it say hello developer. And we'll change this to version 2. Save it. And now we want to go back through and recompile or rebuild our Docker. But this time, we're going to tag it as version 2. So right now, it's building the Docker image locally. There we go. So it built the Docker container. So now if I look at my Docker images, I now have 2 images. I have one for version 1, one for version 2. So now I want to push our version 2 to our Docker, our Google Cloud Docker. And it says the layers already exist, but it has pushed the new version to our repository. So if we come up here and look at our container registry, we have hello app still. However, now we have 2 versions. Now that we have 2 versions, we need to spin up our second version. So now we take the Kubernetes so kubectl set image deployment / hello-web, hello-web, our GCRIO project hello app version 2. So now we're pushing version 2. It's been deployed. And to verify that it's been deployed, we'll go back over here to our Kubernetes Engine. Here's our cluster. We'll start at the cluster level and go look at our nodes. There's our nodes, look at the individual nodes. And then if we scroll down, there's our hello web. So click that guy. And then if I scroll down in here, here's the version of the image that was deployed. So there is our version 2. So now, if I go to the service, and I click our endpoint, hello developer, version 2. So that's how quickly it is to real-time deploy and scale your deploys. All right, when you're all done, we want to make sure we clean up our services and our demo here so we don't keep getting charged. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to delete the cluster. So you use GCTL delete service hello web. I just ripped them out of there. So now he's no longer visible by the world. And if we want to verify that, we just refresh, gone. However, we still have our workload running and we still have our cluster running. So next, we remove the compute forwarding rules. And lastly, we delete the cluster. So GCloud Container clusters delete the hello cluster in our zone. It says, are you really sure? Yes. And then it'll take it a second or 2 to delete.
Let us stop here for now. Due to the length of the initial presentation, we have broken this video up into 3 parts to make the downloading and viewing of this topic easier. In the first part of this presentation, we focus on understanding and using the Google Cloud Platform. In the second part of this video, we continue our journey into Google Cloud and walk through how to use the platform to deploy containers using the Kubernetes Engine and Online Console. In the third and final part, we discuss how to use Google CLI or Command Line Interface SDK tools to deploy your containers from a desktop to a cloud Kubernetes engine. When you are ready to watch the next parts, please click the links in the show notes or look in the video directory where you found this video. Thank you for your time and have a great day.